Welcome into Sports Memo's betting podcast, NHL edition, with our NHL handicapper Andrew McGinnis. McGinnis, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
Good, Drew. Good. Ready to talk some hockey? We're doing good here on the East Coast. Again, I was saying to you how cold it is here. Happy it's warm over there for you. How are you?
I'm doing good, yeah. And I'm coming to you from South Florida in Fort Lauderdale, and you're in Nova Scotia in Halifax, right, McGinnis?
Absolutely, yeah. We were doing a little bit of a geography talk before the show started. That was kind of nice to go over things. And it's one of the great things about this industry is being able to really just meet people from all over North America and even just all over the world. So, yeah, it's really cool. And hopefully one day I'll get to South Florida to see what your kind of part of town is like.
Absolutely. If you come down, we'll go to a Panthers game and bet on it. Have a good time. Nova Scotia, you taught me, is 1 hour before in the Atlantic Bermuda time zone, right?
Yeah, so we are, I believe it's 1:09 for you where you are. It's 2:09 where I am right now.
Interesting. I never knew that there was another time zone right in front of, I guess, the Florida-New York one. But either way, McGinnis, good stuff. Geography always fun to learn about. But most of the people wanting to know about what to bet on tonight's card, tonight's NHL card. We're talking Thursday, January 17th. We got let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 game card. You're 6-6 on your best bets here on the NHL podcast. So hopefully go to 7-6 in the positive. And guys, the coupon code for today's podcast is NHL99. That's NHL99 at checkout. And you can get 30 days of NHL service from McGinnis or Alex B. Smith. We have two NHL handicappers for just $99. That is $226 of savings off the retail price at sportsmemo.com. So that coupon code NHL99 for the 30-day all-access service with McGinnis. McGinnis, let's start off 33-34, 7:05 Eastern puck drop. We got St. Louis at Boston, 5.5 the total. Boston, the Bruins, let's see, minus 143 at Pinnacle, minus 148 at Heritage. So pretty heavy home favorites here. How would you look to bet the Blues and Bruins?
Drew, we're taking a look at the total in this one, actually. You can get the over at 5.5 plus 110, and that's where we're going to go in this one. I mean, this St. Louis team, for starters, is a team that is a really big buy team right now in my eyes. You know, the start of the season, I talked about it time and time again, how they were not meeting their expectations whatsoever. This team was built in the summer to actually be a team to take serious, a team that could be contending, and for a long time, they weren't really living up to those expectations, to say the least. Ryan O'Reilly's finally stepping things up. He's playing a huge role, a huge factor on this team, and I'm seeing some chemistry now with Braden Shen and Vladimir Tarasenko, and that's really what this team needs. They need their top six, they need their top guns to get going, and then kind of the rest of the players will follow the pack, follow the lead, and I think that's what really had to happen because, it's really important, kind of, as much as you want depth in hockey, to my eyes, you also want to have those top guys really leading the way and leading the pack. And, you'll see guys like Robbie Fabry and Oscar Sundqvist following the role after that. So I think that once Ryan O'Reilly got going, the rest of the team kind of started to spark. So that's really been impressing me. This Blues team's been putting some goals up. And, for a team that for a long time I thought was an understyled team, is finally starting to score and put some goals on the board. And, as far as this Boston team goes, this is a team that pretty much since Christmas has been on fire. They got on a 6-game winning streak, and then it was actually the Montreal Canadiens that took care of them in a lower scoring 3-2 game. And then they're actually on a second half of their back-to-back as they played last night against the Philadelphia Flyers, dropping that one 4-3. So again, Drew, I always talk about this, and strictly with hockey, I feel that second half of back-to-backs can deem to be an over. I know teams can still come out scoring. They can kind of fix their mistakes in their last game. They can have their coaching adjustments in their head. They're really fresh. They don't have time to think. They're right back out there on the ice. However, the fatigue could set in later on in the game, and that could really just lead to goals. And I think a team, especially like this Boston team, that's so sharp right now. They've got their guys back like Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak playing so well. They're not going to be happy with that loss to a team of the Flyers that, let's face it, aren't very elite, but this Boston team definitely is. So after dropping that 4-3 game, I think both these teams come out firing everything on net. I think that St. Louis has looked really good right now. Boston's scoring and they're looking to be one of the contending teams at the top of the East right now. So, as much as, Rask has looked good as well in nets for the Bruins, I think the Blues come out well rested, very fresh, and we'll see lots of goals in this one. So a rare 5.5 number. This Bruins team's been able to score. They've looked good on defense, but I think the Blues come out, put some goals up as well. We can expect this one to see at least 6 goals. So we'll go over 5.5 at 5 times. You can get it for plus 110.
All right, McGinnis, and so we go from 5.5. Seeing the next game, Chicago, New York Rangers, it's 6.5, so a full goal difference as far as totals goes. That something that's kind of made the mainstream, betting just kind of news, so to speak, is these first period overs in NHL. McGinnis, have you been betting those at all?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that myself and Alex B. Smith, you can also find on Sports Memo, have been talking about a lot. It's one of those things, Drew, that I think you don't want to get caught up too much. But first of all, if you can find the right matchup and you can also find the right trends, I say why not? The thing is you're only getting 20 minutes. So, I've seen lots of times. I'll give you an example. The game I actually was at, I believe, around a month ago in Boston, Drew. It was Boston versus Toronto. I decided to take the first period over 1.5 and stay off the full game. But what happened was the score was 1-0 at the end of the first, and the game ended 6-3. I mean, so that stuff can happen, right? But looking at some of these stats, I believe Chicago right now is, 22-2 in their last 24 games, the first period over. Something ridiculous. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. I mean, it's something that you can go for. It's something that you can really make some money off of course. But again, a lot of times you could see a game where you might think it could start either slow and end fast, or start fast and end slow. So it's important to kind of look at that and say, hey, maybe this game could break out in the first period and then things will slow down. Or again, the quite opposite, where like what happened with me, where it starts off slow with a 1-0 and then teams kind of ramp things up in the second and third. And it's important to note, Drew, there's so much juice on doing the second and third periods, but I don't often like to talk about live betting, but certain books do offer it for period betting. And I think that it's really important to look at that sometimes because, let's say it's the second period and, it's the 5 minute, it's down, 15 minutes remaining in the period. So the odds have dropped a little bit. Second period's known for being one of the highest scoring periods. Look for that sometimes, the over 1.5 in specific periods, not just the first period, because, the start of the game, there's so much juice for the second and third. That's why people go for the first. But if you can get that live, lots of value.
All right, McGinnis. Well, we got 35-36 up next. Chicago, New York Rangers, 6.5 the total. Looks like Rangers minus 125 or minus 130 at home.
Yeah, if you looked at this, and I looked at this matchup, just without any research, just point blank, I would tell you to look at the over. But now looking at these teams, I gotta say, I've been kind of bashing on Henrik Lundqvist. I've talked about him with you a lot, Drew. Actually, he's the goaltender, of course, for the New York Rangers, and I've been saying I don't think he's the king anymore. I think that there's been new guys that really stepped in and taken over, but he's looked pretty good recently. He's looked solid, and he steps into this one tonight against the Blackhawks, and this Rangers team continues to play spoiler and lots and lots of games. I mean, Lundqvist allowed just 2 goals on 36 shots. And a really, really well-needed win against the Hurricanes on Tuesday. And we're seeing Colin Delia in nets for the Blackhawks. This is a guy who's in his first year. He has a 2.86 goals against average. So he's a guy that, hey, no one really knows too much about him. But all we know so far is he's looked pretty good. He's looked talented. He's looked pretty poised in nets. And, this Blackhawks team is scoring. But I believe the message from the locker room, the message from the coaching staff is to get off to a better defensive start, is to take care of the puck in their own end. And that's what I expect to see tonight. You mentioned it, Drew. We're seeing, we're going from a 5.5 game to a 6.5 game. 7 goals is a lot of goals. And I think that this one should stay under the total. I don't think we'll see 7 goals in this one. We're going to go under 6.5. I just believe both these two teams, in order to be able to take themselves seriously, they got to step things up defensively. And that's what we should see tonight, in New York. So we're going to go with the under 6.5 in this one.
All right, we got 37-38 up next, 7:35 Eastern puck drop. Toronto at Tampa Bay, 6.5, another high total here with the Lightning laying minus 140 at home.
All right, Drew, this is pretty much the biggest game that we're going to see in probably weeks. This is realistically, the two heavyweight contenders in the Eastern Conference. This is kind of the game everyone wants to see. This is what hockey fans live for, and if I can tee it up anymore, I would. But this is a huge game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I believe they dropped their last game to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it's just looking at this right now. Tampa Bay looking to post 10 straight home win over the Maple Leafs. So I think that for this one, first of all, in the past several meetings, this Lightning team has just put up goal after goal on this Toronto Maple Leafs team. And that's the biggest thing. You look at teams like Tampa and you think, who can really stop them? They are the fastest team line for line in the entire hockey league. There's no team that can match up with them line for line. I mean, I always talk about depth. It's my favorite word to use when handicapping hockey because it's so important, because unlike sports like basketball where you can have a player on the court for so long, the most you can have a player on the ice is probably 33% of the time, which is realistically not that much. So you have to have that depth, and that's exactly what this Tampa Bay team has with Steven Stamkos, with Braden Point, Kucherov, Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn, Anthony Cirelli. All these guys get the job done on a nightly basis. And you also got to give lots of credit to Louis Domingue, a guy that's the goaltender for the Lightning. He stepped up big time when Andrei Vasilevsky was out with injury. And now, of course, Vasilevsky's back, and they're taking care of things on defense as well, and also from the goaltending position. So for me, I'm looking at the under in this one. Again, we're seeing a higher total here, and I just really, really feel that if the Leafs want to get things done, if they're going to be able to do much in this one, they got to be able to take care of the puck in their own end. Sacrifice an icing if they have to. Get the puck out, protect your own end, and when it's there, break out. This is the thing with this Leafs team, is they'd spend too much time in the neutral zone, kind of just messing around, trying to be too fancy. They've been juggling their lines a little bit. I think they're going back to the old Matthews and Hyman line, which is great to see those two guys back together. But finally, of course, the Leafs are healthy from the goaltending position. This is a key matchup, and back in the day, it used to be close games, close matchups would deem to be higher scoring. But I think in this one, it's going to be lower. It's going to be under 6.5. It has to be for this one to stay close, and I think this is a huge game for the Maple Leafs. So for that reason, I'm going to go under 6.5 as the total, and that's actually going to be our best bet on the podcast here, Drew, as my play here. I believe the public has absolutely hammered the over simply because these two teams, the way that they match up and their stats. But you don't look at stats against other teams. You look at stats against each other, how these teams match up, how they're fair together. And to me, this is almost like a playoff game. And the way I see these two teams coming out off the first drop of the puck, I see it being a checking game, really aggressive. And for that reason, there won't be too much of a heavy start. I think it'll be a defensive start. They'll clog the ice up and make things small, and it should lead to an under 6.5, Drew. So best bet on the podcast, but we'll continue to go over 2 more games.
All right, good stuff, McGinnis. So we got 6-6 year to date. Look to go positive with the under. That's game number 38, Toronto, Tampa Bay. Guys, if you're liking the podcast, liking what you're hearing from McGinnis, you can get his next 30 days of service, all access, using NHL 99 at checkout. We'll give you the full month for just $99. That's $226 off of the retail price at sportsmemo.com. His 30 days, all access, NHL 99, the coupon code for that. We got game number 39, Winnipeg, Nashville up next. McGinnis, 6 the total. Heavy favorite here with Nashville, minus 167 at home.
Drew, it's pretty interesting because we're seeing almost a heavyweight game in the East with the Leafs and the Lightning, and now we're seeing pretty much the heavyweight game in the Western Conference with the Jets and the Predators. So it's a great night to be a hockey fan, that's for sure. And we're looking at this matchup, and we see 2 relatively healthy teams finally. I mean, the only 2 real key guys that are out for Winnipeg is Nikolai Ehlers, and for Nashville, Kyle Turris. But other than that, these 2 teams are very, very healthy, so it's really good to see that, first of all, when you see 2 great teams matching up. But this Nashville team, they got, first of all, they have the best home ice, I believe, record in the entire hockey league right now, and they have the best crowd. I believe that in the National Hockey League, home ice advantage is one of the biggest advantages in any sport at all. I don't care if it's baseball, football, whatever it is. I think when you go into Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, it's a tough building to play in, a tough place to play in. And this Jets team definitely knows that. And I think that gives the Predators an advantage right off the get-go. But this Nashville team, in my eyes, is the real deal. They're going to go all the way this year. They have what it takes throughout their entire lineup. And when I say that, it's not just the goal scorers. It's the role players that get things done on any factor. They've got a line. Their third line, Drew, Colton Sissons, Nick Bonino, Austin Watson. It's a line that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time because they're not a line that's going to go out there and score a bunch of goals for you each game. What they'll do is shut down the opposing team's top line. They'll go out there, they'll lay some checks, lay some hits, make some key defensive plays, get the puck deep, make a difference in the offensive zone. I mean, they're not great players. They're not outstanding goal scorers, but they're those great key players you want to have on your team. Then there's guys like Ryan Hartman, Frederick Gaudreau that are just on the fourth line, but they still make an impact on this team. And of course, you've got PK Subban now. He's back, fully healthy, back and paired with Roman Josi, his defensive partner, Matthias Ekholm and Ryan Ellis. You know, those are top 4 defensemen on this team, potentially, you know, top 15 defensemen in the entire hockey league. It's just so impressive, this team, line through line. And I just think they match up really well against this Jets team that's pretty top heavy. They're very reliant on, you know, 3-4 goal scorers, where that's not really a problem for this Predators team. They could get goal scoring from a lot of people, and they're looking very smooth on defense right now. So instead of laying the juice, which is, you know, really getting bet up with the Predators right now, we're going to go with the 60-minute line here with the Predators at -133. You can find that number at William Hill, which is comfortable. I'm very comfortable with that. It's a place that, you know, the regulation line, I've talked about it with you numerous times, Drew, that I'm comfortable going to that number because I feel they're going to comfortably win this game within 60 minutes, and I don't want to lay that juice on the money line. So I'll kind of take things down with either the -1 or the 60-minute line sometimes to reduce the odds a little bit. And that's what I'll do here. The Predators match up very well. They're playing some outstanding hockey right now, and they should get the job done.
McGinnis, and just to be clear for some of the new hockey bettors out there, if you do take the regulation line and it goes to overtime, you lose your bet, correct?
Yes, that only applies to the first 3 periods of the game. Overtime shootout does not count.
Okay, but you lose your bet. You don't push your bet, right?
No, you lose. It's an outright loss.
Okay.
Yes.
And is there any other game you wanted to throw out here on today's podcast?
I mean, there's one kind of look here that I wanted to go over with the LA Kings and the Dallas Stars here, Drew. Just really quick, if you have the time, because
Yeah.
this is a very interesting one because we're seeing a 5.5 total, and you know, I've told you that I try and look for those ones, trying to convince myself why I shouldn't take the over in that one, and it's really fascinating to see plus money on totals, Drew, especially at 5.5. I mean, you know, plus 125, 120 at most places. These are two teams that are one of the slowest, least action-packed teams in really the entire hockey league. This is the thing. You got two teams like that aren't playing great hockey right now. Are going to collide. We could easily see some scoring because, you know, first of all, I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but it's nice to talk about interesting hockey news. The Dallas Stars CEO and pretty much president about a week and a half ago, Drew, just absolutely, you know, put his top 2 players on blast. Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, two top players on Dallas, absolutely got roasted by their CEO and the president, saying that their top players, and he listed their names, are not playing well, not performing well, not doing their job. And since then, they've been on fire. So then now, Drew, the new joke is that the CEO has to put everybody on blast so that way they can just pick their game up and just play better. And I found that really funny, but in all seriousness, it's really worked, and Dallas has come alive. So, you know, if you looked at their stats for the whole season as far as goals per game, it's kind of pathetic. It's not good whatsoever. It's two of the lowest teams in the entire league. When you've got LA right now, who's finally stepping things up a little bit, finally scoring, finally getting the job done. And if you look at it, 4 of the last 6 games for LA going into Dallas have gone over the total. You know, so Pittsburgh a couple days ago LA beating Pittsburgh 5-2 a couple days ago, a team that's usually very tough to even put up 3 goals against. So I think when LA wants to wake up, they can wake up, and against a team like Dallas, who's pretty weak on defense themselves, we could probably get an over in that one. So again, guys, we're getting some plus money on this over at plus 125. Very rare, especially with a 5.5. I would recommend the over in that one with the Kings and the Stars.
All right, McGinnis, and the podcast best bet was the Toronto under, correct?
Yes, yeah, possibly the game of the night. I just think it's going to stay under. It's going to be a great close game, but if the Leafs want to have any kind of success in that one, they can't be off to a rough start like last time. And for that reason, I'm going to go with the under 6.5.
All right, McGinnis, good stuff on the podcast. We got the coupon code NHL99 at checkout for his 30-day all access for just $99. That's $226 off. Huge discount there. You'll get 30 days of service with McGinnis. McGinnis, thanks for your time, man. Best of luck with your bets. Best of luck with this Toronto under tonight. Move to positive on the podcast best bets, hopefully. And we'll talk to you next week. Best of luck out there, and we'll be right back with Teddy Covers in the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast.